Hello, this is Ryan, and for this video tutorial we will work through exercise 9-2 of your textbook. The instructions say to redraw the object using the given dimensions and include listed tolerances. So I've used the line command to generate my perimeter, fillet command to round off the corners, and then I drew circles and moved them over the required distances to get this base shape. Now we're ready to add the 12 dimensions that are listed with the additional tolerances as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to my Annotate tab and get that open so I can see my dimensions. And we have different dimension styles that come in preset with the particular template that we use. I'm going to choose ISO 25. Remember, if your dimensions are too small to read, you can go to Dim Style and change the scale to make them larger. So I'm going to start by just adding in these linear dimensions. They're wanting, looks like, from edge of the shape to center of hole. And then I can do a continuing dimension from that point to the center of this hole, just like so. Now they want another dimension that goes from the center of this hole to the center of this hole. And the farther out we go, the more we want to drag these dimensions out so they don't overlap inappropriately. We'll repeat that again and go from corner to corner. Always pick your object and not another dimension line when you're snapping for the corners of a dimension. So those look like the correct base dimensions along the bottom. And now we'll add the right side. So if I go back to Annotate, I can add my dimension from the base to the center of this upper hole, like so. And then they want another one. Spacebar just repeats that command for the overall height. Again, spacebar repeats that command. We need one to the center point, and then for the overall width, just like so. And here we have another one from the center point, and then the overall width. So take a quick glance, make sure you have all of your expected dimensions. Those look good. We just have a few radiuses to add, so I'm going to go and click on radius and call out this fillet here as a radius. And it looks like we need to do a diameter. So if you hit the arrow next to radius, you should see a diameter option, and then we'll pick our circle and show a diameter off like this. So now that we're done, our dimensions have, no trailing zeros, and they have no tolerances, so it's our time to add those. Multiple ways to do this. We could go into our dim style and make one adjustment that would impact all of these, but for this particular problem, they've kind of given us a laundry list of different options. So we're going to change these one at a time. Dimension 1, dimension 2, both need plus or minus 0.25. Those are the two over here. So if I highlight those, go into Properties, and scroll down to the very bottom, you'll see tolerances at the bottom of your properties. For tolerance display, this will be symmetrical, which means we've got the same up and down tolerance, and our limit is 0.25. So if I zoom in, you'll see we have 34 plus or minus 0.25, which is what we're after. One issue, though, is we have a comma instead of a period. So if you have that, type in dim style, and that's my active dimension, so I'm going to modify. And if you go to primary units, decimal separator, you can change that to a period, and that will clean things up. Now it will not change what's already drawn. So actually it did. Sometimes it doesn't. So that changes my current dimensions and my future dimensions. Next we have 3 and 5, which are plus or minus 0.05. Those are the two here. So again, we can highlight, go all the way down to our tolerances. Tolerance display is symmetrical, and our limit is 0.05. And there we have those showing correctly. For number 4 and number 11, we have, and number 12 for that matter, 4, 11, and 12, we have different limits. So I'm going to highlight those. This is 4, and then 11 and 12 are up here. So if we go back to our properties, when those are highlighted, instead of doing symmetrical, we're going to do limits, and our upper limit is going to stay what it is. It's our lower limit that changes, and each of those are down by 0.2, I believe. Let's see what that gives us. Oh, I did it the wrong way. That's the upper limit. Lower limit should be down by 0.2. So we have 30 to 29.8, and we have 15 to 14.8. Those look correct. Now the problem is we don't have enough zeros. They want us out to the hundredth. So while those are highlighted, I'm going to, this is set to the hundredth already. Now here there's an option that says suppress trailing zeros. Yes, we don't want that, so let's turn that off. Okay, there we go. Now we've got the proper display. 30 to 29.8, 15 to 14.8 in all three locations. So what do we have left? We have not done the 0.1s, so dimension 6 and 9 are plus and minus 0.1. So that's our overall width and our overall height. You know how to do this now because we've already done these symmetrical before. Go down to your tolerances, change it to symmetrical, and it should be 0.1. 80 plus or minus 0.01 looks good. 60.01 looks good, or 0.1 rather. Now, what do we have left? I skipped over number 8, it appears. Dimension number 8 on the right. But instead of doing it from scratch, I can do a match property because dimension 8 is plus or minus 0.25, the same as these. So if I match property, I can apply that change. So that looks good. So all of these are complete except for our radiuses. Now, I'm going to show you two ways to do this. First off, we'll do, looks like they're, we'll do number 10 first. So number 10 is over here, and all they want us to show is a diameter of 14, 3 holes. So whenever possible, like we spoke last week, I avoid doing a text override, and I should be able to simply do what's called a suffix. And bear with me as I find where a suffix is. Dim suffix. So if I just go into this dim suffix and I go dash 3 holes, all in caps, and enter, you'll see that that modified my dimension. Now I like that because that has not overrode my dimension. If I change that hole size, it will change the dimension, and it'll also keep that text. So it's still a live active dimension. Now for the other one over here, which is number 7 in your textbook, it says to do the same thing for 8 places, but we have plus or minus 1 as our tolerance. So if I go in here and I change my tolerance at the bottom to symmetrical plus or minus 0.1, that's all good, but when I try and add in my suffix here, I don't believe it's going to work. I think we'll get a problem. 8 places. And as you can see, it put the 8 places in twice, and I don't know how to get around that. When you add the tolerance, it thinks there's a suffix after each. So what we can do is try placing that in the prefix and see if we get it a little bit different. So maybe that'll be okay, because I don't like to override dimensions. I'll put another space there. So 8 places, and again, this is live, so you can play with it like I am. I'm going to put the dash after the fact like that. So 8 places, 5 plus or minus 0.1. I think that's fair. Now the other way, if you want it to be spelled out exactly in the order it is in the textbook, you would have to leave that highlighted and then go down here to text override. Up here to text override. You can physically type it in, and what you type is all that shows here. But we'll call this good for this particular problem. So really, this is all we're after. You don't have to take this into a paper space tab if you don't want to. So just do a save as, And we're going to save this as 9-2, EX9-2, and that completes the exercise. Thank you for your time.